Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam64, and welcome to the RoboCast, episode 8 of the 2018 BattleBots season. I'm joined alongside,
Steve the American Killjoy.
and it's just the two of us this time. Uh,
Yep, just you and I, buddy.
I mean, yeah, yeah. Anderson's got to have his dinner. How rude of him.
I can't believe him. Well, we'll have to just get on his case next time.
Honestly, Anderson, have your dinner earlier next time or later. I don't know. Do the thing. That.
Because
Anyway,
we did earlier last time and it worked out. So
yeah, it's true. It's true.
mm.
Um, shall we just crack on with the episode then? Obviously, there was a another Science Channel exclusive Rumble last week, which was Deviled Egg, Axe Backwards, and Basilisk, which we've actually literally just watched this as we're recording this because
because we both forgot.
we both forgot that it was a thing. I mean, it was a Rumble.
Yeah,
Axe Backwards getting some big hits in. I like that. I really like that. Basilisk seemed to struggle throughout. I think they might have knocked a wheel quite early on. One of the spinners might have hit it, or maybe it was reception issues. I'm not sure.
mm.
But they seem to struggle throughout. It's a shame because Basilisk is a really nice looking machine, and we haven't really seen it at its full potential yet.
No, and it's a shame. It is such a pretty machine, and like we didn't really see it too much in its Rumble back in 2016 season, where I mean Blacksmith just bullied it. Um, yeah, it's kind of a shame. But maybe one day they'll actually get the kinks worked out of it. I mean, it's only the first time we've seen it on the show so far, so hopefully it's getting things worked out. That seems to be a running theme with some of these robots. It's just like, oh, their first fight, yeah, well, get the kinks worked out.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, for
particularly the
most
season,
robots,
particularly the season three, the new robots for season three. I mean, obviously you look at Bite Force last season, and it kind of not struggled last season, but it wasn't
yeah,
at
it
its
had
full
some
potential.
teething issues.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
this season they've been pretty much untouchable, haven't they? But
yeah,
obviously, and then towards the end of the fight, Devil Egg starts to get a bit more aggressive. Axe Backwards loses its
yeah.
big old drum, which is a shame.
Yeah, Axe Backwards was dominating this fight early on with that drum, really throwing things around, throwing Deviled Egg around like it was nothing.
Yeah, but obviously towards the end, the drum died on Axe Backwards, and I'm surprised they did give it to Devil Egg in the end, but it was one of those
Mm.
things. It's a shame, but I personally thought that it should have gone to Axe Backwards. I think they were the better machine throughout, but
Mm.
I'm not a judge. I sit here and talk
And
about
that,
the decisions.
yeah,
So,
neither am I. I mean, it was definitely an extra fight. It didn't have the flash and glam of stuff that would show up on the Discovery Channel, but hey, it was still a good fight, and you got to see Deviled Egg's grindy wheel actually
do
kind
a
of
thing,
do stuff.
do a thing, yeah, and as well as that, see Axe Backwards like throw things around, which is what you wanted to see.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
onto the episode proper. Our first fight sees Rotator take on Warrior Dragon. Now,
Mm.
obviously, we spoke to Craig Danby last week. He said he had an untelevised fight with a robot, which he didn't know if he could mention. It was mentioned on this episode that the robot they fought was Rotator. It is
Hmm.
now at 1-1. Apparently, Rotator give it a right good kicking, as in like taking the wheel guards off and just generally wrecking Predator, which is no mean feat considering Foxic, its sort of little brother, withstood Last Rites, which is Tombstone's sort of little brother.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy when you think, that's the level that they're against, and Rotator was able to take that apart. It's kind of crazy. And obviously, Warrior Dragon fresh off a victory against Chomp. Very interesting fight between two sort of similar but yet contrasting styles.
Yeah, it was it was a really interesting fight. I find it interesting that Rotator only decided to use one of its blades at a time. Yet they kind of commentators tried to explain like, oh, that's the only one that can actually be active during that's the only one that can actually attack because it's at the right level. But for balancing, it'd be kind of interesting to see like both of them going. I don't know. Maybe
I think
maybe I don't know how that works.
you have to think, they're going to draw a lot of energy from like the batteries and stuff if they spin both of them at the same time.
True.
If anything, that's probably just like conserving power so that
Yeah.
they can be stronger later in the fight. And like it
Right.
obviously,
Plus Warrior Dragon's so low to the
yeah,
ground.
there was literally no point spinning the top weapon. I mean, I think they made the right choice just spinning the lower one, and I think had they spun the top one, it would have been just useless. They did spin it a bit
Yeah.
later on, which we'll get to in a second, but they I think it was a good strategy. I think just conserve energy, use the bottom disc or the bar in this case. They use bars in this fight to try and just generally cause damage to Warrior Dragon, which of course they did do. They stopped that kinetic ring on the back, which
That
actually
seems to not last a fight. It seems to break in the middle of fights pretty often.
the thing is, Warrior to me looks like such a complex. It is such a complex machine. Let's face it, it really is. There's a lot going on in a really small space. I'm
Like
not
Revenge of Trouble and Strife, it has a flipper and a spinner.
Yeah, and there's not much that there's a lot that goes on in a tiny little space. I feel like the slightest bit of damage and it will hurt it quite a lot, which
Oh, yeah.
I get. It's a complex machine, but I think the design itself is really clever. Rotator got a good hit on the kinetic spin, which actually did quite a bit of damage to Rotator. I felt like this fight was quite controversial, in a sense that Rotator for most of the fight only had one wheel working and was just kind of fanning around in circles. Really, it was kind of weird to me that they ended up giving it to Rotator in the end. But I suppose damage and active weapon use is king, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, they did stop Warrior's weapon, really, because once the spinner stops, the flipper stops working.
Yep.
So, I mean, I guess that really weighted the judges' scorecards. But yeah, I'll have to watch it back again. I don't remember Rotator not having drive on one side.
I think it was quite early on. I think it started just driving around on one side. I think again I'll have to double check, but I'm fairly sure it just stopped on one side. If you can hear something in the background, that is my dog walking around. And obviously, of course, Warrior Dragon and its drone, inseparable as they are.
I still don't know. And here's the thing, we've harped about drones, I think, in the past, or maybe I don't know if we harped on it on the season 2 review that's to happen.
Yep.
It's been so long since we've actually talked about that.
Yeah.
But I always wonder why. I mean, well, the thing is, Warrior is already built, and the drone is just accessory to get to the weight limit.
Yep.
But for some robots, it's just kind of like, why would you waste weight on a drone instead of putting it into your robot?
I get why. If they have weight spare, then I get it, because the thing is, if you've got the weight spare, then you might as well use it for something. Be it a mini bot, or because drones were the new thing coming into season 2 that it hadn't been done before. I get it. It give your robot like a selling point. Oh look, we've got a drone as well. Look at that.
Yeah.
But and obviously the drone tried to land on top of Rotator, got spun out of control by the top spinner, which I really liked. I thought that was quite clever.
Yeah.
And then they went to the judges and they gave it to Rotator, which I was quite surprised. Was it a double KO? I can't remember. Did they both get him over?
I think Rotator was just edging a little bit at the end, but I mean, they were both pretty conked out at that point.
Yeah, Warrior was certainly sort of slowed down and was kind of limping to the finish, wasn't it? Really, but it was a good fight. I enjoyed the fight, and it was a nice way to kick off the episode. Two robots that are in fairly good form at the moment, and obviously in the end it was Rotator that got the W. And we predicted before the series started, or season started. Sorry, that was my English coming through. We predicted that Rotator would be a dark horse. Kind of unlucky against Petunia to lose its weapons quite early on, but now we're starting to see some good form from Rotator, and I think we could see it start to pick up a few more wins going forward.
Yeah, it is a nasty piece of kit, so hopefully that holds true.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that said, Rotator beating Warrior Dragon. And our next fight, it was Reality versus Duck. Our next fight, the Dutch Destroyer.
Oh yeah.
The Dutch Destroyers against the robot we haven't seen since the first episode. Duck winning its rumble, just about. Again, really good fight. You got to see Reality taking chunks out the front of Duck. I really like the commentary from Chris in this fight, saying, it's using its face to break his fist. That is literally the fight in a nutshell.
Yeah.
We got to see, Duck going in. He might have lost a wheel, but still going in. Reality looked really potent Obviously, lost to Sawblaze a few weeks ago, but Sawblaze is an impeccable machine and Jameson's obviously a fantastic driver, is in top form. Reality, we didn't really get to see much of it because Sawblaze is such a difficult opponent to fight. It did cause damage underneath, but wasn't like, extremely obvious. In this fight, you got to see the chunks that Reality was causing to Duck, and I think overall it was a really good tussle.
Yeah, it was really good to see another Duck fight. I mean, from knowing the past success of Whoops,
Yeah.
and knowing how successful that aluminum brick is at just running at things and not dying, it was a testament to that. Um, it's it really is a tough thing to take out. I mean, you got to get by the sides and rip all those wheels off to make it die. You cannot break it any other way.
It's true.
As we saw in this fight, it just outlasted Reality, and Reality just
That was such a shame.
out at one point, and it dominated the fight. It really did, and then it just couldn't finish.
It was such a shame because, as you mentioned, Reality was on top throughout the fight. It was the one chasing down Duck, and eventually it just stopped. And it wasn't as if like it was being pushed around and bounced off the walls and everything. It just turned around and stopped, and that was it.
Yeah,
Which is such a shame. It's such a shame because I think, again, Reality were on top throughout the fight, and they deserved more than what they got.
yeah, they really deserved at least to take this full 3 minutes, and
Yeah.
at least let the judges decide what their fate is. But this was it's kind of heart wrenching when you're like, man, they almost got a victory, but that's how Rutgers machine just lasting until the final bell or before it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, Duck at 2-0 now. I'd say they're probably looking pretty good to get into that bracket at the end of the season. I think that
I was gonna say, it doesn't surprise you. You say it would you wouldn't be surprised to see Duck later because of how rugged it is and how tough it is to just destroy.
Yeah, it's true. Like obviously, Whoops is notorious for being a great machine in Robo games, and obviously that's carried over to Duck. My one concern would be the difference between Whoops and Duck is obviously Whoops doesn't have the lifter. Duck does to meet the active weapon rule, and my concern is that's got to be an element of weakness because obviously it's connected to motors rather than just a solid piece of chassis.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think something will give against like a big spinner, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see later in the competition how Duck gets on. As for Reality, such a shame because in the two fights they've had, they've been so unlucky, and they've put on a good show, have the Dutch, and I hope we get to see more of Reality going forward. But really unfortunate to lose to Duck. What have you made of Reality this season?
So far, Reality has been pretty impressive. It's definitely a valiant machine. It definitely can deal out massive hits. But I mean, when you fight something like for its first fight, when you fight something like Sawblaze and the current, as Jameson Go puts it, when he fought, I don't know if it was in this episode or if not, like the current meta of BattleBots, it's very hard to fight something like a dustpan with a saw, with the way that the robots are designed now.
Mm-hmm. With the big kinetic spinners.
Big time, yeah, and how a lot of robots are like it's more important to protect your sides rather than your top because there's not a lot of really big heavy hammer robots. I mean, there's a couple, but not enough to really design for.
Yeah.
Overly.
Yeah.
But and then you fight something like Duck that just doesn't die. So I think they've had a couple of tough draws, but if they get another fight against something, I'm not saying like a cupcake fight, like of something that just doesn't come at them, but something that that can really bolster their ranking because right now they're 0-2, and the best they can finish is 2-2, so they really need two good, solid wins and to really give them a chance, to make that final bracket. But I mean, Reality is it's a solid machine. It just hasn't really had a good draw. I mean, I hate to harp on that because I mean it's hard to know who you're gonna fight when you get there. So
it's very true.
Yeah,
it's very true. Obviously, Reality, as Steve mentioned, moving to 0-2, Duck to 2-0, and our next fight sees The star of the cold open this week with Will Bales driving the cardboard box around. I also love how they had Swamp Thing in the background and they had Chomp on its side in the test box.
Yeah,
It's
that's good for people playing I Spy.
yeah, obviously, I think the show itself at this point is just like kind of mocking the people who just criticise Chomp for being something that falls on its side a lot, and it's great to see that they've got a sense of humour about it. And obviously, Will Bales driving the cardboard box. Of course, he was awarded the best driver in 2016 in BattleBots, and he's come back with HyperShock, and this time he's fighting. Oh, the poor burger people. Battle Royale with cheese. Oh dear.
The fast food drive-through. Ooh no.
Well, I mean, it was fast food, and it was driven through by HyperShock, so.
Yeah, that's about what I mean, you know.
Yeah, it was. Oh, it was such a. The thing is, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Battle Royale is a beautiful robot. It is a beautifully designed robot. It's an art project. It's an art project. To see it get torn, like literally split in half by HyperShock, which is a damn fast machine, a damn powerful machine, as we saw. It's so sad, and I felt so bad for those guys. But I'm happy for Will Bales at least that he managed to get a win on the board, which is great. You know, a robot of HyperShock's quality should be in the bracket at the end, and I'm hoping we're going to see that. But what a shame for Battle Royale to get drew against such stern opposition.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of sad. It is a really pretty machine, and I guess we can now finally figure out that HyperShock and Will Bales play with his. He plays with his food.
He does play with his food, yeah.
So I mean, at least we know that. But it was. I mean, they called it a cupcake fight. I mean, it was. It wasn't really. It was barely a fight. Because
I did love the shot of.
Deal.
I did love the shot of HyperShock just slamming into Shorter Pounder, the little mini bot.
Yeah.
I did like just
it was still okay at the end. They could still use it. It
got sent flying across the box. Yeah. It was great, and obviously, poor Battle Royale itself just getting split wide open. HyperShock, that drive power is something special. It just zips around like nobody's business. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It looks like a giant RC car, which I suppose it's just the effect that they were going for. But it looks like a giant RC car, and it looks fantastic as it does it. It's really nice.
And even Will said at the end that it was, and I did notice it during the fight. He was having a little bit of drive issues. It wasn't driving as freely, I think, as he wanted it to. But even then, it was still super fast and super controlling. And I mean, it's not hard to chase something like a burger, but. I mean,
yeah, he and obviously he enjoyed his puns at the end as well, which is great.
Yeah.
Will seems like he's really enjoying himself this season, which it's good to see. Once again, credit to Discovery for keeping these fun bits in. Not like sterilizing it and making it a hyper intense sports show like ABC sort of did. It's still a sports show, but it's a bit more laid back, a bit more fun.
Absolutely, and it was good to see him finally get a win, because I feel like if he didn't win this fight, he might have to think other things to do. Yeah,
poor Will. But hopefully we'll see more of HyperShock soon. Obviously, Battle Royale. Hopefully we'll see more of them soon with a bit more luck. Hopefully, but that looked quite almost not terminal, but like it looked pretty serious. Did that attack from HyperShock? We'll see how Battle Royale recovers from that. Our penultimate fight sees Witchdoctor take on Blacksmith.
Yes.
This for me was probably the best fight of the show.
And the drama of it all.
Yeah, that's the thing is, the fight itself was kind of one-sided. Obviously, Witchdoctor seemed really up for it. Obviously, I think they had to change all their internals back to the old ones they had in the original Witchdoctor. So it was a bit slower and a bit heavier.
The frame is different to fit them.
Yeah, I think it's the old frame, but with the skeleton mounted on top of it. It's a bit of a cut and shut, this version of Witchdoctor now, but it was good to see it finally fully working. I'm happy to see that they've actually got some of the problems sorted. However, Blacksmith is not an easy opponent. Al Kindle drove really well to just try to stay out the way. I think he had issues with his hammer throughout. I think that's fair.
Yes.
Just, he just struggled to seem to get in and lay in. But it was good because obviously towards the end that move on the screws, I thought, how on earth has he pulled? That was the jammiest win I've ever seen in my life. And then Witchdoctor falls down. I remember you were in a group chat with some of the people. You were mentioning how the screws work. What was that about?
Yes, I totally wanted to look into that because I know there's going to be people that talk about it and say, hey, there are many other times where people got stuck on the screws and didn't get down. Well, here's the thing. The way the screws work this season is when they get jammed up, they're supposed to go the other way. Doesn't work every time, but that's the way they're designed. So when Witchdoctor is pinned against the screw, I guess there's like a timer for how long it stays pinned like that, and then it rotates the other way. And it just so happened that it was just about to be counted out, and it falls down off the screws, and I mean, the rest is history.
Yeah.
So it's going to be talked about because people I don't know how because I was wondering like, oh, are they manually controlled or like no, it's completely autonomous. It's to make it fair, I mean, this is a I mean, it's not a game show or a sport, you know what I mean? But it's
competitive.
Exactly. It's not like the old school BattleBots where you have one guy with all the box hazards and he can just play with them and do stuff like that. I mean, that was more of a show kind of thing. This is more trying to even the playing field. Yeah, that's the way the screws work. The whole deal is that once they get jammed up, they're supposed to go the other way, and it doesn't always work. But in that match, it worked, and it saved Witchdoctor.
It did save Witchdoctor. I think it would have been a shame if Witchdoctor had lost like that because, as I said, they dominated the whole fight. They were taking panels off, or like sort of peeling them away from Blacksmith. It was eerily reminiscent of their fight with Minotaur last season. As for Witchdoctor, their first win since beating Rotator in 2016, which is
it's been a while.
Yeah, I'm glad they finally got a W. I think Witchdoctor deserved the fight, but hey, it's one of those things. It was pretty even, and then as for Blacksmith, 1 and 2 for the season so far. They need a win in that last fight, don't they?
Yeah, it's getting scary. I mean, they've fought Bite Force, they've fought the Four Horsemen, and now they fought Witchdoctor. They got a pretty decent strength of schedule, I would think. If we're talking like, I mean, there's my college football background coming through, but that's really important, especially when it comes down to later in the season. Who have you fought, and like how close were decisions, and like how badly did you beat them, or how close did you lose, or how badly did you lose? So it's going to be interesting to see who they fight last. And if they win, because even if they end up 2-2 and they get a good final win, I think they could sneak into the bracket. And hopefully Al gets that hammer swinging, and I want to see that fire again, because it really wasn't working in this fight.
Yeah, it was a good effort from Witchdoctor, as we said, but I think it would have been a different fight had the hammer been fully active.
Yeah.
I think they would have scored points, but you know what? It's one of those things. These things happen in Robot Combat, and obviously Witchdoctor were able to pick up the win, which they desperately needed. Which brings us to our final fight.
Yeah.
Which was beautifully teased on Facebook and like the other social media outlets the BattleBots had as this grand rematch. 20 years in the making between Inertia Labs and Mutant Robotics. The last time they fought was was it Long Beach, the live event?
Yeah, Long Beach 99, where it was Rhino and Tazbot. It was a very long time ago, and I can't believe they never fought on the TV show.
Which it surprises me as well. Like
seems like a disservice,
Yeah, like Dissector and Toro never fought. The Matador and
that's like Razor and Hypnodisc not fighting. Like you need two robots.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. These two grand old teams gone way back, and they never fought since then, which is kind of. It's nice to see the BattleBots is respecting the history of the original show as well, and obviously there are those out there who really look to these kind of things and like, oh yeah, these guys have never fought. Why haven't they fought yet? Well, BattleBots have paid attention to that, and they've made it happen. As for the fight itself, I think both teams were struggling with interference or something, because
Yeah,
you know
it's weird to say interference because it's almost like, I mean, this isn't the '90s and the early 2000s anymore. We're not using like weird
maybe they were just
anymore.
for like a bit of throwback, just using like the old controllers. Um,
You know, it was like a throwback to yesteryear with the interference problems, but I mean they were both having drive issues clearly.
yeah, like neither one seemed to fully have mobility. Bronco is kind of sliding all over the place and just not going forward. And I think Lockjaw lost a wheel. I think lost a wheel early on, but he was still struggling before that.
Hmm.
So I don't really know what happened, to be honest with you. It seemed like Lockjaw lost a wheel, but I'm not 100% sure. Um, the fight itself, fairly even. Lockjaw took a few panels off of Bronco off the front flipper. There was this one huge flip from Bronco
Yes.
when Lockjaw was on the screws. It got perfectly underneath it, and it would have gone even higher had Lockjaw hit the side of the box differently. It hit it with its at an angle with the forks, and it kind of bounced it
Yeah.
back down. It could
Yeah.
have
I want a
got.
measurement. I want a measurement to where those scratches
It
are.
was huge. It was at least halfway up the arena. Certainly
Oh yeah.
at least halfway up. It's amazing flip from Bronco. Interesting again that Bronco went with those sort of ribbed side panels, much like they did against Bombshell, which apparently isn't to do with like preventing vertical spinners. It's preventing them from getting the wheels.
Oh, okay. Well,
So they can go so they
it
go
kind of
straight
works
on.
as like a way. It
Yeah.
kind of works as like a way to get them to ramp up underneath, though. Unfortunately, because that's the way curves work.
Yeah, but no,
Um,
I think that's the idea. The idea is to have they go underneath and just hit the underside, which is strong enough to take the hits, whereas otherwise they just go straight into the wheels and take them off. I
I
think
can see that.
that was what they were going. I believe I read that somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but that was the idea to take it off. Have them go underneath and hit the bottom, which is stronger than the wheels, which I guess makes sense. Um, Towards the end, like considering that and the fact that Bronco did lose some panels against Lockjaw, I'm surprised the decision went the way it did.
I think Inertia Labs was surprised too. Like you can see Reason's face going like, "Whoa, that they gave it to us."
Like,
That's
I think had it been a Robot Wars fight, I think that's the correct decision. But with BattleBots' judging criteria and it being more focused on the damage,
mhm.
I would have thought they'd have given it to Lockjaw. But no, it was interesting that they gave it to Bronco in the end. But yeah, Bronco now at 2-0. What do you think about that?
It doesn't surprise me. Uh, I mean, this is a team that are historically known for making deep runs into competitions, especially the televised ones.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's not really much of a surprise to me. I expect to see them late in the competition, but I mean, hopefully they keep all their wheels on their wagon.
Well,
That seems to be a thorn in their side.
as we mentioned the last time they featured, they've only ever lost in the reboots of BattleBots to Minotaur and Tombstone.
Right.
Other than those two, and maybe Bite Force, I can't really see anyone beating them.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough ask for anybody to go up against something like that because it's formidable. There's no other way to describe it.
Mm.
It really is a tough out.
Yeah, and as for Lockjaw, much like Blacksmith, they need a win in their next fight because
Yeah,
obviously they're now
he's on
1-2.
dire straits right now, and that's not very common for Donald.
Well,
But I
when you
mean,
consider who they've lost to, they lost unluckily against Endgame because they got stuck in the floor and then Endgame picked them off. Which some people have said it's a bit cheap. I think it's just fair because you get stuck in the
Yeah.
floor. You're not going to just leave them there, are you? Come on now.
right.
And obviously Bronco this week. I feel like Lockjaw's been unlucky, and
Yes.
I think they can take a lot of pride in the fact that they've only lost to decent machines.
Hmm.
But it'll be interesting to see
Yeah,
how they recover. I think Lockjaw has still got an outside chance of getting into that bracket. We'll have to wait and see.
yeah, I think so too. I mean, with how often they bring up how Donald's won 6 giant nuts, with some of those being Rumble victories. But it would be kind of sad not to see him in the final 16.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll see.
We will indeed see. As for the week as a whole, what do you make? I think this episode's been one of the stronger ones for a while. All the fights,
Yeah,
all the fights were kind of back and forth. There was no like total domination in any of the fights except for,
Burger time.
Yeah, except for Burger Time. But every other fight in the episode was kind of like, I actually don't know who's going to win this one.
Yeah, and a lot of the decisions were close, and could have gone either way.
I was like, we had four judges' decisions.
Yeah, it's
out of 5.
Putting it into perspective like that, it's telling. But I don't know. It was solid overall. We had some good fights, and sometimes it's good to see fights go the distance. I'm not gonna knock that. I mean, you get a lot of complaints. Well, here's the thing: you get complaints when the fights end too early, and then you get complaints when the fights don't.
When they drag too long.
I mean, yeah, like what's the happy medium? Like 2 minutes?
Yeah, so 2.5 minutes, something like that. Anyway, with that said, thank you very much for joining us, Steve. As we're recording this, we're about to see the England and Colombia kick off in 15 minutes. So I'm going to go watch that. World Cup fever. Who's going to win the World Cup, Steve? Let's do that as well. Let's predict that.
I mean, it's going to be hard to knock Brazil out. Let's put it that way.
All right.
Very dominant. I mean, they're favored. I mean, for how much I know about soccer or football, it's I mean, I put them pretty high.
This is the content you subscribe to us for. Clearly,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to go for France
Yeah,
from here. I think France are going to win from here.
Okay.
But we will see. We will see.
England's mortal enemy.
Mate, well, it's coming home, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, I've been Sam Elliott 64.
I've been Steve the American Killjoy.
Come on, England, and we'll see you next week for BattleBots 2018 episode 9. See you then.